Chapter 8, Gliding into the Future. Author's note. This is a flashback. Amelia really hated goodbyes. Not that she wasn't used to them, quite the opposite. She's had to say bye so many times. She just couldn't bear to think of having another one. But here she was again. "No, Bones, I won't be part of it," Amelia said. She was short compared to him, being a cat and all, but she looked up at the gorilla with the strongest eyes she could muster. She was an orange cat with stripes, a brown pirate hat on her head, boots, and a head full of long curly hair. She was angry at having to go through this again, and she used it to her advantage. "But it's just a heist," Bones, the captain of the Zeon pirates, said in a smooth tone. They were in an alleyway on a port in Spain. It was a bit dark and musty in there, although it was the afternoon. "You help us, we give you some of the gold. We'll split it equally. It'll be fair." "No, that's my final answer." He turned his head coolly to the side, but his gaze flickered back at her. His tone was calm so far, but she could see the deadliness in his eyes. Bones' crew, who were standing around them, got closer, holding their swords at their hilts. This was not going well at all. "I told you that I only go on treasure hunts. I don't do heists. I don't kill innocents. I told you that. Now, if you let me leave, no one has to get hurt here." Bones stood there. Amelia waited. "Get her." They all pounced. She was able to pull her weapon out before the first one came, and she blocked a pirate's sword with her own. She kicked him away, knocking back a couple others with him. She jumped up, landing on a couple of the pirates' heads, and used them as leverage to grab onto a windowsill. Pulling herself up, she climbed into the building. "Get her!" Bones cried, and she knew they would be in the building in a couple seconds. She crept as quickly as she could, looking for a place to hide. She was panting, but she tried to keep it quiet. The place seemed to be an apartment, but it looked deserted. There wasn't that much furniture or anything. She heard a crash, and she turned her head towards the passage where she just came from. That was probably one of the doors she passed through. She needed to hide, now. She ran quietly into another room, which was a kitchen. She pulled open a door and, bingo. It was a large pantry, with shelves placed from floor to ceiling. There wasn't much in there, except a few rather large boxes of canned beans and toilet paper. She closed the door softly behind her and nimbly climbed into one of the shelves. She maneuvered herself to get behind the boxes. She pulled her knees and tail close, making herself as small as possible. There they were. She could hear their footsteps, pounding thunderously in the hallway. The footsteps came closer until they reached the kitchen. There were only 2 pairs of footsteps. They must have split up to look throughout the apartment. "She's got to be here somewhere." One of them, Jim, she recognized, said. "She can't be that fast." Bones didn't call her the orange streak for nothing. Lars, Jim's companion, retorted. He opened the door. She stayed absolutely still. At least it was these 2. They were the dumb ones of the group. Hopefully they won't see. The box of beans was pulled from in front of her, showing the leathery, wrinkly face of the gorilla, Lars. His teeth were crooked and chipped, showing all their glory as he smiled wickedly. "Gotcha!" He grabbed her feet with his powerful hands. She tried to hold on with her paws, tried to kick him, but it was no use. Well, if they wanted to get hurt so badly, then she would have to oblige. There was no going around this now. She let go of the shelf, making Lars stumble back from the unexpected force. As they both fell back, Amelia turned towards him, striking him in the face with her claws. She landed on her feet as he thumped to the ground. Jim, a thin, scruffy dog with a bandana around his head, held a sword in both hands and ran towards her. He was across the room in seconds, but it was more than enough time for Amelia to pull out her sword with one hand. The swords clashed, and they began their deadly dance. Amelia dodged and parried, only needing one hand to do all the work. Jim had to use both, and although his hits were powerful, they were sloppy and not with nearly enough grace as hers. Jim never did learn, Amelia thought, thinking about all the sparring matches they used to have. She knocked Jim's sword out of the way, leaving an opening. She clawed him across his chest with her free hand, leaving marks. As he reflexively leaned forward in pain, she punched him in the face, making him sprawl back, unconscious. "Sorry it had to be this way," she murmured. She stood still, looking at the unconscious Lars and Jim. At least they were just unconscious. She didn't know what she would do if they were actually killed. All the times they used to sit around the fire and talk, all the clues that they would figure out and unravel as they were looking for that lost treasure. All those good times. She really hated goodbyes. And even worse, she hated how other pirates always turned on her in the blink of an eye. Didn't those times mean anything to them? "That was one fine fight, me hearty. Those scallywags didn't have a chance." Amelia turned, shocked, and raised her sword towards the voice. It was inches away from the intruder. The person was a male cat that looked a lot like her. He was an orange tabby and was about 20, like her. He was in pirate's garb, hat and all, but he wasn't part of Bones's crew. Although he had a sword to his face, he didn't move from his relaxed position. He was leaning against the doorframe, both legs and arms crossed. "Careful where you put that, mate. It could poke someone's eye out." He smirked, and his eyes had a twinkle of mirth. Amelia lowered her sword, but just barely. "Who are you?" she demanded. "The name's Calico Jack." He lowered his head in mock greeting. If she didn't have the sword on him, she bet he would have done a full-on bow. "But I really should ask you the same thing. Out just in me home, minding me own business, when all of a sudden you and those good-for-nothings just come barging in." Amelia looked around. "You live here?" "Sparse, ain't it?" he chuckled. "Yeah, I do. But I don't plan on staying here long. By the way, would you mind putting the sword down? It really isn't the way to have a proper conversation." She studied him for a moment, but eventually lowered the sword. "Name's Amelia," she said. She put the sword in her sheath. "Nice name," he said. He pushed himself off from the wall. He started walking down the hall. She followed, wondering what he was doing. "I should let you know, I saw the rest of the Zeon pirates." At Amelia's quizzical look, Calico shrugged. "I recognized their symbol on their clothes. Don't worry, I took care of them." They walked past 2 unconscious pirates, Norman and Bates, in the hallway, and saw 3 more, Charles, Lumiere, and Captain Bones himself, on the living room floor. Amelia looked at Calico's back as he walked towards the 3 in the living room. This guy took care of the captain of the Zeon pirates, with his henchmen attacking as well? That's a tough feat, even for experienced fighters. This cat must really be good. "We should tie him up and call the police to round them up," Calico said. "You're not afraid of them getting us too?" Calico turned to her. "As long as we explain what happened, and haven't done any crimes earlier in this port, then we're good. The authorities are pretty lenient on pirates here. As long as pirates behave in their borders, they don't give us any trouble. This port is actually one of those few places where they don't hate the existence of pirates." "That's hard to believe," Amelia quipped. But she didn't intervene when Calico called the cops. True to his word, the police didn't do anything to them. They just looked up their files and, once it was apparent that they had clean slates, let them go. "Huh. So you have an entirely clean criminal record, even outside of this town?" Calico said after the cops left with the Zeon pirates. "Truth be told, I've never met another pirate who hasn't had a slew of crimes following them around." "Me neither," Amelia said, filled with a small sense of awe. "Who'd have thunk it? Someone else who hasn't given in." "You're a pirate too, right?" Amelia asked. "What are you doing on land?" "Don't have a boat anymore," Calico replied. "Sink a few miles away from this here port. Had to swim over here with nothing but the clothes on me back. So I'm living here for now. I got a deal with the grocery store owner downstairs that if I work here, he'll let me stay in this apartment. Now I just need to figure out a way to raise enough money for a new boat. I don't plan on stealing a boat, but I don't want to stay here for the rest of me life either." "I could help you with that," Amelia offered. "It's the least I could do for helping me with the Zeolons." And, for some reason, she didn't want to part ways with him. He smiled again. "If you could, I'd greatly appreciate it. I just don't know how long it'll take for a boat to actually be bought. It would be a while till that'll happen." "Well, it's not like I have anywhere else to be," Amelia said. "That's right. She doesn't have a crew anymore. She's alone again." Her feelings must have shown on her face, because sympathy laced across Calico's features. "Hey, I know the grocery store owner has another apartment in this building. He's kind of a landlord, too. Maybe we could have a deal with him similar to mine, so you could have a place to stay." It was a bit strange for him to say "we" so quickly after she lost her last group, but Amelia felt a bit of warmth at the word. "Thanks. I'd like that." They talked to the owner, and soon Amelia was employed at the grocery store. It wasn't the best deal in the world. Although she would live in her own place, there wasn't much money in it. She could see why Calico bought canned beans. But she had a place, so she was content. For now. She knew the sea would be calling her again, and that she'll have to answer it eventually. It was deep in her bones. And she could see that Calico Jack had that same calling. While they worked at the grocery store, Calico told of stories of adventures he had at sea. "So there I was, surrounded by 100 guards." "Is that so?" Amelia corked a smile as she put her head on a paw. They were taking a break in the back of the grocery store. Calico always told great tales. She found that she could listen to them forever and never get bored. Some of them were obviously exaggerated, and she would smirk in amusement at those. But what she really loved was the vitality Calico had. Here he was, among crates of fruits and vegetables, on land and away from the sea that he loved, and he was still full of fire. He still dreamed, still was so passionate. He was just so full of life. She had seen pirates, and even herself, try to act that way, but she never saw anyone who truly, wholeheartedly, and naturally embodied it. And she drew towards it like a moth to a light. They decided that they'll partner up and become their own pirate crew, and they each got extra jobs to save even more money for the boat. They usually worked together at the grocery store in the mornings, went to their own separate jobs in the afternoons, then eat dinner someplace late at night and each go to their separate homes. Then, about 2 months later, Calico asked her out on a date. Amelia was surprised that he had feelings towards her, but she could only say yes. She had never seen anyone like him, and as time went by, she knew that she would never want to leave him. It came to a point where she would never want him out of her life. She didn't know what love was, but she thought she had found it. And when she would hold his paw, fingers laced together, she felt like she was part of something greater. And when she looked into Calico's eyes, she could see all the same emotions staring back. A year after first meeting each other, they got married. She knew some people would have told them to wait, but Amelia thought it was perfect. If they knew they had found the right person, then why not commit to each other? Amelia moved to Calico's apartment, and with the extra money she received from the move, they got a little closer to getting the boat. It was a long process, and they were both impatient. Such is the way a lot of pirates are, she mentally quipped. But they had each other, and that made things so much better. Eventually, after another 3 years, they were nearing the normal amount of money for a boat. Calico and Amelia would head down to the boat areas of the port now and look around, haggling with the boat owners for a price they could afford. They particularly had an eye on one boat that was kind of small, which would be easy for 2 people to man, fast, and looked like an actual pirate ship. As Calico would say, "We have to look the part." And sure enough, all their hard work paid off. They were able to get a huge deal, and the boat was theirs. Their adventure could start. Amelia shouldered the last couple of bags up the ramp onto the boat. The air was crisp and cool, early in the morning as it was. The sun was rising, waking up the sleeping port. "Is that the last of it?" Calico took one of the bags from her and followed her into the storage room. "Yes, it is. Hopefully we'll have enough supplies to last for a while. It'll be fine. If anything, we'll just drop by the nearest port. Hopefully we'll have an adventure before then, though," Calico said. He was jittery. She could see by the way his tail flipped excitedly. Amelia smiled. "Can't contain your excitement, can you?" "No way!" Calico practically hollered. They were on the deck again. "I finally got a new boat. I'm about to sail on the best journey ever, and—" His paw wrapped around her waist, catching her by surprise. He pulled her to a side hug. His voice got lower. "I have the best wife a pirate could ever ask for." Amelia's features melted, and she rested her head on Calico's shoulder. It was funny. Amelia felt like she should be the one grateful for him. They stood in their embrace, looking out onto the ocean, their future. It all felt surreal. But she shook herself. Might as well grab the future by the horns. "What are we waiting for?" she said cheerfully. She got out of Calico's hold and did a backflip. She liked to show off sometimes, landing on the ship's wide railing. She grabbed the rope that was attached to the mast. "The ship won't sail itself, you know." Calico grinned with the brightness of 1,000 candles. A jab of happiness went through her at the brilliance. "Right, let's go." As the boat finally set sail and went into deep water, gliding into the future, Amelia leaned out from the ropes on the side of the ship. She closed her eyes in pure bliss. It was only just the beginning. They had their whole life to look forward to.